Hello, everybody. How are you doing today? My name is Tony Rizano, and this is episode 328 of the world famous, the University Love, the best podcast in 1, 2, 3 galaxies. But ladies and gentlemen, you and I, we just call this thing online marketing moves, and we are coming to you live today. Today is July the 9th, 2021. At the time of this recording, ladies and gentlemen, how are you doing today? Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about something that is very important today. We are going to talk about the wonderful world of business. Ladies and gentlemen, we are going to talk about a business that is on the decline. They have been on the decline for a while, and they just keep tripping over their own 2 feet. I don't know how long. Well, it'll probably be around for a while, but it definitely ain't what it used to be. And this business we're talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is a channel that I used to watch when I was a kid over and over and over again. Ladies and gentlemen, we are talking about ESPN, the wonderful wide world leader in sports. ESPN used to be a sports network. I don't know what happened, but ESPN is something else now. I don't know. A war zone, I guess. I don't know. But when they started in 1979, I remember they just wanted to do sports. And they have a book. A guy wrote a book about ESPN, James Andrew Miller. If you want to ever read something interesting about how a company got started, then I highly recommend that book. It's a very good book. And ESPN got started in like 1979. Guys had an idea for a cable sports network, and ESPN was born. And ESPN was, the 80s, the 90s. They only discuss sports, things in the world of sports. It was very, they had, basketball, football, hockey, all this kind of stuff, and now, you fast forward to 30 years later, 40 years later, you're like, I don't know what happened, but I don't watch ESPN too much anymore. ESPN has disappointed me. ESPN has apparently disappointed a lot of people. The viewership is down quite a bit. There's always some type of, nonsense, some type of shenanigans going on at ESPN, and you're like, for this just to be supposed to be a sports network, they have a lot of shenanigans going on. And ladies and gentlemen, I do not want you to ESPN your business. Do not sink your business, by trying to be something that you are not, And so we are going to talk about that today on the podcast. Now, if you haven't already, ladies and gentlemen, before we get started, listen and subscribe to this channel so that way you won't miss out on daily episodes. We come to you live every day, most times every day. Missed a day yesterday, but for the most part, 99% of the time, produce an episode, and it's very informative. We talk about things from creating content to email strategy to marketing strategy to the mindset that you need to conquer your online goals, Okay. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, let's get into it. Now, couple days ago, they had let's go back. Let's go back in time. And so we just got done talking about this. They started in 1979. When they first got on air in 1979. In the 80s, they built the network, they grew the network. It became like the number one sports. Everybody knew ESPN. They had great personalities. They had, the sports center the sports center. They used to show baseball. They would show hockey. They would do some football, and it was nice. And then in the 90s, they expanded it, In the early 2000s, they grew ESPN more, and eventually it was bought out by Disney. And I don't know if that was the start of the decline. I don't think so. But in the last 5 or 10 years, ESPN has gotten, very, I don't know, political, or what's the word I'm looking for. But, the thing is, and it's so funny to me, like, before they was like, oh, we don't do politics. We don't do politics. We don't do politics. And I remember one of the biggest controversies that they had in the early 2000s was they hired Rush Limbaugh. Now everybody knows Rush Limbaugh. Everybody knows Rush Limbaugh had a talk show, and I mean, he passed on, but rest in peace, Rush Limbaugh. But he had a show, and good, bad, or indifferent, doesn't matter what you think about Rush Limbaugh. His show was his show, and he talked on his show, and he was very, I guess he was more on the conservative side of things, you know what I mean? And so they ESPN, they it was like, oh, we're gonna bring Rush Limbaugh. Now this is and one of the things was, we don't do politics, we don't talk about politics, we don't discuss politics, we don't do all this kind of stuff. And in the early 2000s, they brought Rush Limbaugh on. I don't know who thought that would be a good idea, but it could have worked. But then he said one thing, which I don't know. Me myself, if you say something that's kind of off the wall, something kind of controversial, I don't know. I don't think you should be exactly fired for saying one. Now, if you just blatantly out, with the nonsense, with the if you just blatant and always talking crazy, and it's like, all right, come on, enough is enough. But the guy was on the show for like 2 weeks. He said one thing about a quarterback. I think it was Donovan McNabb, and immediately ESPN got all scared and got all nervous, and they pulled him from the show. They let him go, and it's like, you knew what you was doing when you signed him. It's not like Rush Limbaugh was going to be like, oh, I'm not going to say anything, controversial. I mean, that's his whole platform is, he's a conservative, and he's, he was against, the Clintons when they was in office, and, he supported George Bush, and, he was just more for the conservatives, and there's nothing wrong with that, whatever. But you know who you're hiring. It's not like it's a secret about who the guy is. So it's like, when you say one thing and then you let him go. So, ESPN was like, oh, we don't do politics, blah, 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 but you hire a political person. So that was one of the first kind of like, ESPN. And then just along the way, they started doing more. They went away from journalism to me, and they went to a lot more, like personality driven, like Skip Bayless and Stephen A. Smith, doing the first take. In which, listen, I don't blame them guys. Them guys, they created a lane for themselves. I mean, Skip Bayless used to write for newspapers, but I mean, TV probably paid him. Well, TV definitely paid him a lot more money than what he ever made writing newspapers. And Stephen A. Smith, he created a platform off of being on TV. Whether right, wrong, or indifferent, it doesn't matter. But they created a platform. ESPN went with it, and they're like, hey, we're gonna do less, sort of less journalism, more, opinionated stuff, and you get what you're gonna get when you start going down this lane. And so I remember they had on SportsCenter, they decided to change the 6 o'clock show because they talked about the ratings were lagging and everything like that. And so they brought on these two African American people, Jamel Hill and Michael Smith, and I like both of them. I think both of those, they were great people. They were good on the show. And Donald Trump got into office, and Donald Trump is very controversial, highly controversial. He says a lot of things, and it's either you like the man or you don't like the man. It's not really a in between. But and ESPN was like, don't talk about Trump. Don't talk about Trump. But you don't have to be a rocket science to understand that a lot of these, like, okay, Fox News is for the conservative, MSNBC is for the liberal, and CNN, they say they're in the middle, but they seem to be more on the liberal side of things. But the thing is, ESPN was like, we don't get into politics, but you can definitely see, like, a lot of times they would, a lot of the things that would happen, you sort of could tell that ESPN was more for the, the liberal side of things. And there's nothing wrong with that. But if you just come out, but if you're going to be you can't be a sports network and have one political leaning or another. You should not have that. You're either going to, because sports is the one thing that we all can, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter where you come from. if you and we could come from two different planets, and you and I enjoy basketball, then you and I are going to enjoy basketball. We could talk about anything from Dr. J to Michael Jordan to the basketball to the rim to the stadiums. We could talk about any and everything. There's no, when you talk sports to people, there should be no kind of political leanings. There should be no kind of anything when it comes to sports. Sports is the one thing that Sports was the one thing that when I was over the road, football was the one thing that it didn't matter black, white, we all could sit there on a Sunday afternoon, we all could watch a game, we all could laugh about football, we all could joke around about it. We would have a good time for 3 or 4 hours, and everybody would say the same thing. Driver, it was a pleasure watching it with you. That is supposed to be sports in general. Sports is supposed to be non-discriminating, not anything. It's just supposed to be, hey, here's the game, watch the game, enjoy the game. But now you have this company who's the worldwide leader in sports, and the whole thing is we don't do political. But everything you're starting to see, is more kind of liberal leaning, and you're going to alienate of as Michael Jordan once said. He said, "Hey man, Republicans buy shoes too," and I know he caught a lot of slack from the African American community because they like Michael Jordan. He don't stand up for nobody, blah, blah blah blah. But at the time, and you can't expect one person to. And first off, I mean, Malcolm X said something one time that's very important. He said, why in the black community, why do entertainers and athletes or people speak up for us? You don't see this in other communities, and it's kind of true. I'm not saying all entertainers shouldn't speak for us, but a lot of the times, it's kind of like, do we want this person speaking for us? Should this person speak for us? No, and it is what it is. But Michael Jordan said Republicans buy shoes, and ESPN should have took that same mantra. ESPN should have took that same mantra and ran with that. But instead, they started doing a lot of more political, a lot more leaning towards the right. I mean, what is the left? Yeah, to the left, a lot more liberal stuff. But when Jamel Hill, she tweeted about Donald Trump, and then they made it out to be a big deal, and then they was like, "Oh, you're suspended. Oh, we're taking you off the air," and they took her and Michael Smith off the air, and they basically replaced them, and it was like, you have all these other people, you have all these opinionated shows, but then when one person speaks her opinion, now you're gonna ban her, and it's that was another strike. But then, they started having all this, they started having, after George Floyd died and everything, then they wanted to start doing more stuff about the police brutality. They wanted to start doing more talking about that. They wanted to start doing, all these shows about, police and black people, and everybody started having an opinion. They started letting people talk more and more. And it's like, either you're gonna let both, because I remember Sage Steele. I guess she's more kind of conservative in her personal life. Now I don't know these people like that. I just like to hear sports me personally. I care about the sports. I don't really care about people and their personal life, their opinions, and all that kind of stuff. Because everybody has an opinion, but at the end of the day, we all have our own opinions. We all have our own beliefs. But she got slack. She called slack for saying something about being at the airport for too long when people were protesting, and people were like, "Hey," and it's like, that's her business. That's her business, And a lot of the people were like, blah blah blah. But it's just a lot of missteps and a lot of mishappenings at ESPN. That's the whole point of this show. And the reason why they had so many missteps and so many misfires is because you can't deviate if you're very staunch in your business. If you have a statement. If your statement has been the same for 20 or 30 years, now we all are gonna have tweaks. We're all gonna have different things that we bring on into our business. I'm not saying I'm not saying you have to stay the same. You have to stay stagnant. You don't have to do that. But you can't just can't do a whole major shift and then alienate half your fan base, especially when you are supposed to be it's supposed to be sports. It's supposed to be neutral, and then you alienate half the people. You seem, from the outside looking in, y- it's not hard to tell that, hey, these guys are very liberal. They have a very liberal kind of thinking. And that's not very hard to see. You don't have to be a genius to figure it out. ESPN seems like a very liberal kind of leaning company. But then they had a controversy this last week, and all these people are quote unquote woke, and you got to watch out for that too, the woke community. But they had what was a reporter, host. Her name is Rachel Nichols, and I like her. I watched her show. They have a show, The Jump, about basketball. I watch it from time to time. It's a pretty good show. And but they I guess they got her on camera on a recorder saying how she was supposed to get a job. She's supposed to be the host of the NBA Finals, but they gave it to somebody who's black, and they gave it. And basically, she said, "Oh, the only reason why they got their job is because they're black." And now ESPN has been leaning very liberal, very um, very to the left, and then or to the right. I don't ever know that all that, but I know they're liberal. But you have somebody who's woke and spoke out against police brutality and George Floyd and all this and all that. Equality, all this and all that jazz. You say all that, and then you turn around and say, "Hey, well, the only reason why she got her job is because she's black." And it's like, man, 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 man. And now ESPN is more and more and more, and they're losing subscribers left and right. People are just like, I'm done with ESPN, and you hear it all the time. You used to go to you could go to any barbershop, you can go to a lot of different places, and you would see ESPN, and you don't see it as much as you used to. You see a lot of people, they're like, nah, I'll watch something else. I'd rather watch Fox Sports, or I'd rather watch my local sports. I'd just rather watch anything else besides ESPN. And it's a shame how it's crumbling. I don't know if you know I don't think it's gonna fall apart completely, but it just definitely ain't the same. And it's like, how do you get it back? How do you repair that? Because you know, it's 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 one thing if you're MSNBC or if you're Fox. You already know, you already know who your fan base is. You already know who the people you are that watch your show. You already know this. It's not a it's not difficult. But when you claim you are, hey man, this is just sports. When you claim that, and when you've done it for 20 and 30 years, why change? Why try to, you know, you should have just stuck with hey, stick to sports. The lady, she was dead wrong of trying to tell LeBron James to shut up and dribble, but in this case, maybe ESPN should have just shut up and stuck to sports, because their business is losing money left and right. Now they have all these different layoffs, and it's affecting people. It's affecting, cable companies, because it's like, you don't need. Why would if somebody's super conservative and they're watching ESPN just for sports, and then like, hey, that Donald Trump, he's an evil man, and it's like, if that's the person who they like, if that's their president at the time, that's who they enjoy, then it's going to be very off-putting for somebody. They just want to watch a few basketball highlights, a few football highlights. And even the NBA, they are people have stopped watching the NBA for sort of the same reason. The NBA has gotten very liberal. The NBA has spoke out about, which, you know, I agree, police brutality, it's nonsense, it's BS. But there's there's things that you can do to to fight it, there's other ways to go about it, and I don't know if it's hard to when you're in when you are, you and I, we can run our business how we want. If you say, "Hey, man, I'm for," if you say, "Hey, this is for all my," if you're in the politics, and you care about that stuff, and you're like, "Hey, this is for all my," conservative people, or, "Hey, no, this channel is only for my liberal friends." Then, I mean, that is your business, but you can't say, "Oh, I'm for everybody," and then you turn around and you say something real slick racist. You know what I mean? Like to be like, "Hey, I'm wokey woke," and then say, "Oh man, she only got her job because she black." It's sort of like womp womp womp, and now it's and it's like it's more nonsense at ESPN. It's just like you just shake your head and you're like, "Man, what happened? What happened to the channel I used to watch, over and over?" I could watch ESPN 4 or 5 hours at a time back when I was younger, back when they was, really about sports, and really, they would talk about matters they would talk about things in sports. They had the sports reporters, shows like that, where they would discuss, outside the lines, where they would actually discuss things and stuff like that. And, it was always, everybody had an opinion. It wasn't, let's all lean this way, let's all lean that way, And now it's sort of like, if you don't, especially if you're, unfortunately, if you're black and you're on TV, if you don't think like everybody else, then you're gonna get shunned for it, which you really shouldn't get shunned for it, But I saw this, I saw this thing last night about, Jason Whitlock. He's an ex ESPN employee, and I guess he has, which I never knew, but he has more conservative views about things in life, I guess. And I guess people at ESPN didn't care for that, or they didn't care for his opinion, so they let him go. And then he went to Fox, you know. But now he's like, he has a YouTube channel, and he was making points. And I'm like, sports, the thing about it is, well, the thing about everything in life is you can have an opinion, and that's all right. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter. It's you have an opinion. You have an opinion. You have a right to think the way you want to think. If somebody told me, man, I don't believe in God. I would just say, okay. It's not my business. I believe in the Lord, and I pray and I read the Bible, but that doesn't mean I'm going to hit you over the head with it. I'm not gonna. You know, I mean, I guess at the end of the day, we need to use more common sense than anything. And the people at ESPN has definitely not used common sense. They definitely have not taken care of the company that these people built and these people have made into a success. It's definitely falling apart, and it's very sad to see. And for you, you know, don't ESPN your business, whatever that is. Don't start doing things that are out of line with your mission statement, or out of line with what you believe in. If you believe in something, go for it. If you know doesn't doesn't matter. If you believe in it, then go for it. But don't start when the fire comes up. Don't start trying to throw water on it, and you're like, oh, 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 this problem fixed, that problem fixed. And that's a lot of the problems. These people don't believe in what they're saying. Like, Rachel Nichols, she's, it's, you can't say, "Oh, I'm super woke," and then when it's time for somebody to take your place. And I don't even think it's not about race. A lot of times, unfortunately for women in sports, a lot of times they get replaced for age, or they just might be like, "Hey, this might be a better look, a better feel on TV." Maria Taylor's very good at her job. I watched her on college football a few times, and I think she's very talented. And I think she's very good at what she does. But it's not about it shouldn't be about race. And this lady, who's supposed to be woke, made it about race. And now it's like, and now that I saw another guy, he called out another ESPN employee. He was like, oh no, he's racist too. And it's like, all these people are supposed to be leaning one way, but really they're, are they, liberals, or, are they just pretending to be liberals to get, to get on the side of somebody? But to get on the side of somebody, you're alienating a whole nother group of people. And it's like, you know, they watch sports too. You can't just, in America, I don't understand. We all tie, in America it's very dumb. It's like, if you are a conservative, people think, oh, he's conservative, I can't talk to them, or they're liberal, I can't talk to them, which is very stupid. If you have political views, God bless you. You have your political views, but it doesn't mean we can't go out and have a cup of coffee, or we can't have a chit chat. I'm not gonna shun you if you voted for Trump. I mean, I don't care. You know, in my opinion, Donald Trump was not a good president, not because of being a conservative, but you know, to be president, you need to have some kind of political background a little bit, in my opinion, because at the end of the day, being president and being a politician is about schmoozing. It's about working with people, making deals, and when you want to go, I mean, Trump, business wise, marketing wise, to me, he's a genius, marketing wise. But you can't go 100% win, and be president of the United States, because we have, however many billion people in the United States. Everybody's different. We have Democrats, Republicans, we have independents, we have people that lean left, lean right. People for abortion, against abortion. So to be president, you need to be in a happy medium. You know what I mean? And Donald Trump, he was like all in, all nothing. And you can't really be president with that kind of attitude. But don't ESPN your business. That's the whole point of this episode. Do not ESPN your business. Do not sink yourself. Do not shoot yourself. Do not alienate a fan base. Do not alienate a group of people who buy from you. Once you cultivate your audience, once you cultivate who you want to buy from you, go with that. But don't just all of a sudden wake up one day and start shooting yourself in the foot. And if you say something, stand by it. Don't be a ESPN. That's another problem. Very wishy-washy. Very, very wishy-washy. Oh, you're mad? Oh, we'll make it up to you. Oh, you're mad? We'll make it up to you. A lot of that. Come on now. Be strong in your opinions. Have something to say. And if you believe in something, believe in it. And stick to it. Don't go back and forth. Back, forth, and forth. Yeah, don't go back and forth. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, that is it for this episode. Do not ESPN your business, okay? Do not sink your ship, especially when you're riding high, ESPN was making millions, billions, and billions of dollars. But I'm sure they're still making out all right, but it is. Will it be the same? I don't know. It's not looking that way. But anyway, ladies and gentlemen, we will be back tomorrow with an all-new episode of Online Marketing Moves. And ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't already, tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend about the best podcast in 1, 2, 3 galaxies. All right. We come to you every day with a daily episode, but we will be back tomorrow with all new episode of Online Marketing Moves. But until then, my name is Tony Rizano. Thank you for listening. And as always, everybody, peace.